Welcome everyone, and thank you for participating in this public input and application information meeting for the Community Development Block Grant for the annual action plan for the fiscal year 2021. My name is RJ Ramirez, and I'm the Community Improvement Program Manager with City of Boynton, and I got John Durgan here with he's the Economic Development Manager. And I have online Chris Plummer. He's a CDBG consultant with the Ask Development Solution. So a little bit of housekeeping. If you need to use the restroom, it's going to be outside the door to the left. And if you have a cell phone, please, if you can put it on vibrate. If you need to take a phone call, please just step outside. That'd be great. So the agenda items is we're going to go over a couple of PowerPoint presentations. And the first one, I'm going to explain a little bit about what CDBG, a little bit of history. And the second one, we're going to talk a little bit more about the application process, the requirements and what we're looking for and stuff of that nature. Jury? So for the audience that are participating online, we will keep your audio muted when not speaking. We will provide breaks for questions. Ask questions or make comments in the chat box. Click the raise hand icon if you wish to speak, and we will welcome your ideas and participation. So this meeting itself is definitely for public participation. Once again, it's for the Community Development Block Grant, what is called, what is known as a CDBG program. And this grant program provides funds for economic development projects, for public facilities and improvement, for housing project, and also for public services. So public services is a great part of this this program. So the CDBG program is part of the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. And the City of Boynton Beach is an entitlement community. What does it mean to be an entitlement community? An entitlement community is a city that have more than 50,000 citizens. So the City of Boynton Beach passed that 24 years ago. So every year we get funds from the feds for what is called the formula grants. Is if you have passed, you become an entitlement community, therefore the federal government give you this money. All you have to do is apply and follow the process and regulation that have been established for each grant to be able to put those projects and those grants into to work for the community. So the CDBG program and also the city encourages public participation in all of its programs, which is very important. So we are going to be working here on the 5-year consolidated plan here pretty soon. The 5-year consolidated plan started back in 2017, and it's going to end at the end of this year in 2021. And we developed the program based on the needs of the community. So the public get to participate and say what is it that is needed in the community. We outreach to the community, to the nonprofits and the community at large through surveys and through different medias. So we're going to be able to collect information and data and statistical data so we can be able to put that 5-year consolidated plan into place. So we're going to talk a little bit more about the needs of that 5-year consolidated plan that is going to end at the end of this fiscal year 2021. And now we are talking about the annual action plan for the fiscal year 2021. That one is going to start at the beginning of October 1st, and it's going to go all the way to September 30th of 2022. So CDBG program, once again, as I mentioned, is part of the HUD, which is the Housing and Urban Development, and they established some guidelines. So the CDBG program has been around 47 years, and therefore the federal government has some time to put together some guidelines for that program. So one of the guidelines for that program is any project or activity that is taken with these CDBG funds have to meet one of the national objectives. I want to go a little bit more detail about the national objectives, and also that the activities and projects that are taken on these CDBG grants have to serve what is called the low to moderate income individuals. So at least 70% of the fund have to serve this sector of the population. And what is considered a low to moderate income individual is a family gross income, median income actually for the area have to be less than 80%. of the median income. So the median income for the area is about $80,000. That's like a family median income, what they call it. So, this is a little table that was put together by the Department of Housing and Urban Development on April 1st of this year, and it was released by the Florida Housing Financial Corporation. It was posted on April 14. Just some guidance for the sub-recipient when they want to take on some project activities. They take this into consideration and to see if this area that they're serving or the program that they serve fall into this category. So determining the uses of CDBG. One of the things is that we determine is an eligible activity according to the regulation of the CDBG program. Number two is does it meet one of the national objectives? And does it meet the primary objective test, which is helping those individuals, 70% of the individual help will be or have to be low to moderate income individuals. And also, does it meet all the federal requirements? Like I was saying, the federal government has put into place a lot of requirements for this program, and because they want it to be effective for the community they serve, which is the community that are considered the low to moderate income. They want to make sure that they follow the federal requirement, and also those violate the maintenance effort rules. So this one had to do when it comes to the maintenance of keeping a record of the program activity that you guys taking into place. We want to make sure that the records are kept the way they're supposed to, they're following the regulations according to the program, and not just the federal regulation, but also the city regulation that has been in place when an agreement is signed for those recipients that get funding. All right, so national objectives. So the national objectives are benefited low to moderate income individuals, either individually or in an area. So number two, in the prevention or elimination of slum and blight. And number three, it will meet one of the an urgent need. Meet an urgent need means like we had a hurricane and devastated everything. There is no other funds to be allocated to be able to take care of the emergency. Therefore, we're going to dig into CDBG funds after any other funds have been exhausted. So consolidated plan priorities. I was talking about the 5-year consolidated plan, and it's going to end once again at the end of the fiscal 2021. We're going to start the new one on the 2022. It's going to end on the 2027. So when that first consolidated plan that is going to end at this fiscal year, 2021, again, surveys went out to the community was outreach, and committees were put together and everything else to come into the, to put together this, what the community say where the community needs. And one of them they mentioned it was, actually was established was the rehabilitation of housing. Look at the housing is a problem for the community of Boynton Beach. So therefore housing is one of the priorities. Number two, the production of new housing units. So there goes housing again. Then general public services, they say that was a priority as well. And the other one is job creation or business assistant. And the last one was neighborhood rehabilitation. So some of the eligible activities for the public service, these are just some ideas. There are so many of them. And I will answer any question if you have ideas or new project activity that you would like to take into or put an application for this year. And one of them is youth services. This program can be used for youth services as mentoring after school programs. It could be services for the senior citizens, like Meals on Wheels, for example, employment services, job training, and also services for the homeless, substance abuse services, counseling or treatment, crime prevention, and the financial home buyer education or counseling. So the fiscal year, once again, 2021, the allocation that we expect to receive is about $582,437. So that's what we expect to receive. 50%, up to 50% of that is going to public service, which is about, I believe, about 87,000 and change. And then 24% of that is going to go to planning administration, which is about 116,000. And the rest of it, which is about 378,000, goes to other eligible activity as economic development, housing rehabilitation, and infrastructure. All right, so do we have any question at this point? Yes. May I ask you a favor? Can you speak on the microphone, that way everybody can hear you? If you don't mind, please. Yes. Thank you, Ketora. No, actually, if you don't mind, please. Can you go back, Judy?
To turn on the mic.
Okay, infrastructure. That's a great question. So infrastructure had to do with, I would say, economic development. Chris, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Go ahead. Can you clarify the infrastructure part, please?
Okay, so infrastructure. Hi, this is Chris Plummer. Infrastructure under CDBG covers public works types of project, streets, sewers, sidewalks, those types of projects that go towards improving a neighborhood. Any of those activities being funded with CDBG needs to be in an area where at least 51% of the population of that area have incomes that are at 80% or lower of the area median income. But it's really public works type projects, streets, sewers, sidewalks, lights, I think, could also fit into that category as well.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Yeah.
So again, public work. 51%, he mentioned 51% of the citizens that lived in that area, at least 51% of them had to be within the 80% median income threshold. Yes. All right. Any other questions? Any question from the audience that is online? All right. For the second part? Yeah, there will be break between the slides. So go ahead with the second part, Judy. All right, so this one is more pertaining to the recipient that are seeking to get funding through CDBG program. Once again, we are running into the 21 to 22 fiscal year, and we're going to put the 2 years together because we're going by the federal fiscal, which starts in October and ends in September of next year. So that's why we kind of put the two together. When it comes to HUD, they'll say, no, it's fiscal year 2021. But just for clarification of the public, we kind of put the two together. So this is the notice of funding availability in application for the Community Development Block Grant. So once again, the City of Boynton is expected to receive $582,437 for this year. And the community proposed activity to be funded. And this one, once again, comes from the Consolidated Plan for the needs of the Consolidated Plan, which is the planning. Planning administration is about 20%, 50% of that goes to public service. And then the other one says owner-occupied single-family rehabilitation. That's an activity that we've been doing for a few years, and it's been helping. Actually, it helped quite a few people. But quite a few families here in Boynton throughout the years. And also the other one is a special activity, which is put in place by a community-based development organization, or also neighborhood rehabilitation. Those are kind of the four activities that we are looking to fund. So this is very important for those organizations that are started, for nonprofits that are starting, and that is that this program is run on a reimbursement basis only. Because some of the small nonprofits that are starting and they can't afford to put upfront the funds to be able to run the program, and that's very important something to keep in mind. So we unfortunately can't reimburse any expenses incurred until the scope of work has been approved and the contract has been signed. That's something very important to keep in mind. So to comply with federal regulation, the reimbursement and reports are due quarterly. So this program requires a lot of reporting, and they are due quarterly. It's just to make things easier for you. The first report will be due for the fiscal year 2021-2022 in December. The second one is going to do on March 30th, and then the fourth one is going to be on June, and the last one is going to be at the end of the fiscal, which is going to be September 30th, 2022. Also, the funds are expected to be expended within 12 months contract period, which means that there is no carry on to next year or anything like that. So we expect the nonprofit to start the fiscal, start spending the money throughout the year, and at the end of the year, be done with it. Because we want to make sure that we close those activity and get those files ready and get the fiscal year closed and be done with that. So, and also something that is required is that nonprofits must submit a year-end progress report. That's very important. Progress reports are so important with this program because that reporting goes to the feds quarterly basis and goes to the Fed at the end of the year, because there is something that is called the CAPER, the annual end report that goes to the feds, and all of that data I have to put in that report so the Fed can know what is it that we accomplished with that particular year. So when we put together a 5-year consolidated plan, we say these are the activities that we're gonna take. These are the activities that the community said are in need of the city. So we create a plan and we say we're gonna fund this activity. And as we go throughout the 5 years, each year we put together this annual consolidated action plan and we say, nonprofit such and such, it's gonna do this and this and this. At the end of the year, I have to report my outcomes and say, this was accomplished and why it was accomplished. If it wasn't accomplished, why it wasn't accomplished, because they keep track of that. They wanna make sure that this program is running effectively and the nonprofit that we fund are also running the program same effectively. So recipient. So the recipient are generally nonprofits, and they help the city to implement and administer part of its program. So the recipient have to meet the city's specific selection criteria, must comply with all statutes, regulations, and program requirements. That is super important. And comply with all the terms and conditions of the recipient agreement, meet all the established performance goals, and responsible for monitoring compliance and performance. So you can see that there is quite a few regulations and requirements that goes along with this program and with the money whenever we say, I want to do this activity, and therefore you have to take into consideration the fact that is, first of all, there is a reimbursement basis only, and therefore there is a lot of strings attached to it that we have to follow. And it's something that is being said by the federal government, and again, the city is responsible for implementing and administering this plan because we say we are the grantee and we are responsible. We're going to give you some money. We trust you with the money, and therefore I need to see some outcomes in the reporting. And then here comes the monitoring and reporting. So the recipient monitoring is a key part of CDBG. Monitoring is a key part. So once again, the city bears responsibility to ensure that recipient follows federal regulation, conduct the project services, and accomplish the goals as established in the recipient agreement. It is very important because once again, the city bears the responsibility that recipient is going to say what it says it was going to do. All right. So monitoring provides an opportunity for both the city and the recipient to identify issues that may hinder efforts to successfully accomplish the goals and address the issues in a timely manner. If there is a program that's happening throughout the year and the recipient doesn't know what to do, that's what I'm here for. So to answer any questions that you may have to how can I guide you so we can accomplish those goals, those objectives, how can we give good outcomes in the projects or services that we are taking on. So the monitoring is when I come to your nonprofits and I go through the files and it's here, for instance, what happened during monitoring? So the projects and services are reviewed. I go through the files. I want to make sure that the project is run the way it's supposed to. What you say you were going to do with the project or activity. I look through the client's file, to the administrator files, and review for compliance. Make sure that if we're paying for a part-time staff to run some sort of activity, then I want to make sure that the payroll is in place, that the time card is in place, that all the documentation are in place, and they follow all the different federal regulation to make sure that we are in compliance with the feds. All right, and also if there's a construction project that is happening, also the same deal. I have to make sure that the date is vacant. If the date is vacant, law applies, and I have to make sure that the employee, construction employee, and I pay according to the Davis-Bacon law. And I make sure that if there have to be a environmental review done, then I make sure that that one is done as well, and whatever has to take place with a construction project. And also the staff and recipient will have the opportunity to discuss, once again, as I mentioned, any issues or concern that they might have as they're going along with the project or activity. Any questions so far? No, all right, that's good. All right, so let's go ahead and go to the next part here. And this one has to do with the threshold and criteria of how to apply. So the application, number one, you have to be a legal entity with the state of Florida. And you have to have at least 3 years. You have to be a nonprofit. You have to have at least 3 years on operation, and 2 years of them have to be, 2 years of experience have to be within the area for which you are being requesting funding for the activity. You have to be running that activity for at least 2 years. You have to be as a nonprofit for at least 3 years. So, and also you have to have a board of directors, of course, for the nonprofits, and the staff capacity to be able to carry out the program effectively. All right. So program information. So when it comes to the program activity you are trying to take on, so I want to make sure that we have all the proper information as the organization information. We want to have a contact person, someone that I can call and reach out if I have any questions for anything, or if I haven't gotten a progress report, I need to make sure there is someone on the other end that I can get those reports in time. So the email, address, phone number, and everything else. The staff listing and responsibility of those that are administering the program or service. And the reason for that is because I want to make sure who's running the program. When I come and do the monitoring, I want to know who is running it and what's the capacity of this person running the program, make sure the program is run appropriately. So then I want the program type and description. What is the activity that you planning to take on? And I want a description, a very detailed description of what is it that you plan to do. Once again, we come to the goals, the output, and outcomes. I want to see what are your goals with this activity that you try to take, and what are the outputs, and what are going to be the outcomes of it. All right. So in the all funded sources, I need the all funded type of sources that you have, and the total sources must equal the total uses. So this means that, for instance, if I'm paying for a part-time staff, and this staff work full-time for the organization, I want to see where the other part of it is coming from. Because when it comes to CDBG, they are very particular in what they're paying for. They want to see very clear where is it that they are paying for and what are the outcomes of what they're paying for. Because sometimes a nonprofit organization gets several grants, and therefore they say, I'm going to pay you half from this grant and half for this grant. And therefore, when you send me a request for reimbursement, I want to see that the time cards and everything else is only paying for what is pertaining to CDBG. So if you're running a food bank or whatever else, and you get multiple grants, once again, you want to get them, keep them separate of what you're paying from with CDBG or what you're paying from any other sources. All right, so the documentation. So we have the 501c3 status, as I mentioned before. We have to have the articles of incorporation, current audit documentation, the board member list, the program information such as the brochures and website. This one is kind of important because it helped me decide what is it that you have established. If you have an activity that you've been running for a couple of years and you already put out some like a website of the activity you announce the services that you're providing with that activity, you have some brochures going on and everything else, I can see that you are established. You're already running this activity for a while and you know what you're doing. That's pretty much kind of the bottom line is. All right, and also I want to see the staff and like I mentioned before, the outputs and outcome of the activity itself. I want to see that if somebody came, for instance, for counseling, or you have a shelter and 5 people came to the shelter, what kind of service were provided? When these people left the shelter, what is it that you did for them? That's kind of the outcome that I'm looking for. If you have someone that is seeking rental assistance, and they can apply for rental assistance to your organization, and they submit the application, what is the outcome? Did they actually get a place to live, or what happened to that? I want to see that. So, and I want the staff resume of bios of those that are running the program. I want to make sure that they are capable of running the program. So that is just a part of the application. When I'm reviewing the application itself, I'm looking for all these different details, and I want to see And again, when I put the application online and I put the supplemental application online, it kind of details what is the grading, how the grading work or the application themselves, right? So, once again, as I mentioned, the proof or other non-CDBG funding must be provided, because that's how I know that, number one, if I'm paying for, once again, the example of the part-time staff, what I'm paying with CDBG fund, how is it this staff getting paid with the rest of the time if it's a full-time employee? If it happens to be a part-time employee that is getting funded with CDBG funds 100%, then there is not too much problem with that. When there is a split that other funds are getting commingled with CDBG funds, is when we run into maybe some issues. And I want to see very clear how the CDBG funds have been used, right? All right, so when it comes to the audit documentation, I need to see the 2 most recent years audit. I don't want to see any findings. I want to see that they are clean and they were actually completed by a certified public accountant. And this is very important because the audit documentation gives me some background on the organization. If there were any findings, I want to see what kind of findings were there, what happened here and there. And that's very important. That's actually helped me a lot to make a decision, or actually the committee, because the committee made a decision of who's gonna get funded. So, and I wanna talk a little bit more about that, actually. So the way it works is, the sole recipients submit the application, right? And then a committee reviews the application, they grade the applications. And then the committee made recommendation to the mayor and the commissioners, and then the mayor and the commissioner, they decide, okay, this is good, we accept the recommendation and we're gonna put it in place that way. So when I'm grading the applications, once again, when I'm grading the applications, actually the committee, grading the application, the committee put this scoring on it. And the scoring goes all the way up to 115 points, independence of the, once again, the program itself, what is it that you're running, the capacity to run the program, the sources that you may have to run the program, and so on and so forth. And all that information is in the supplemental application document that was along with the application. So some do's and don'ts. We need to be a little innovative. We're looking for some innovation in this. So we're looking for new projects and services to be able to improve what we give to the community. Again, we're all about what are giving to the community and those low to moderate income individuals. What is it that we're providing for them? So if your program has been funded before, is this an increase or level of service? And the public service must be new and increased. This is a criteria required. So this is required by HUD. This is required by CDBG. Because if we funded an activity before, HUD doesn't want to see that the same old activity is being run, there is no progress, and therefore they want to see something new. What is it that you're increasing on the program, or what is the new program that you're providing? How can you're increasing the level of service to this low to moderate income individual? Because the objective of this CDBG program is to serve and to be able to help out those communities that are in need, right? So, and then again, the other thing is that these funders are limited. And so we want the application to be a little realistic. Once again, for public services, if you activity they're gonna take on has to do with the public service part of it, then it's up to 15%. So it's about $86,000 that is available to fund the activities, depending how many applications we get, how many projects are there and everything else, and how they are graded by the committee. Then those successful sub-recipient will be notified. You were notified and you submitted a request for $25,000. The committee recommended that we give you $20,000 or whatever the case may be. All right. So again, the project had to be completed in 12 months because we're running with a fiscal year here. And even though the CDBG program has been on since 1974, 47 years, even though we are a grantee and we are an entitlement community, nothing is guaranteed in this life. So we want to make sure that we can start and finish the program with the money that we get. So that's pretty much what it boils down to. So, and then we're gonna see if you have any other funds available to continue the activity. If you want to start an activity or it's an activity that you've been provided for the last 2 years, therefore it tells me that you have some other monies for you to be able to continue the activity if happen that the CDBG funds are not available anymore next year. All right, and also something important here is for you to be able to complete all the questions. That's very important. The application has to be completed in full. And, you know, just use the application checklist, make sure you have all the attachment that goes along with the application. All right, so this is the fun part. The application is due on July 2nd. I know. So the application is due at 4:30 p.m. July 2nd. So, you know, if we're running very short on time on this one here, any help that I can do to provide and give you for you to finish that application on time, please let me know. Okay? So let me know anything that I can do for you. So again, if you've been running this service for the last 2 years, at least you have some sort of idea what you're doing. And you have the basic, like the agricultural incorporation, you should have that, right? You should have the resume of your staff. You should have that. All of that information is pretty basic that any organization that has been in place for the last 3 years and running the service or activity for the last 2 years should have documentation. It would be a matter of just calling your accountant, hey, can you send me a copy of the last 2 years audit, and then there it goes, and you put that together. I know it's a little challenging with the time, but any help that I can provide, let me know. Go ahead. Yeah. Exactly. And that you said, I mean, for instance, I got a call from a new nonprofit that would like to apply for services. And what happened is track record is very important when it comes to CDBG program. For instance, this organization runs, I believe, a food pantry, right? But this organization doesn't have a track record, doesn't keep track of the income levels of the person that comes to get food. So therefore, how can I prove to hold myself that this organization is actually serving only those that are what is considered the low to moderate income individuals? So that's something that I have to give to the feds, and therefore I have to require from the organization. And again, we go back to the fact again, if the organization itself has been running for 3 years, at least 3 years, and it's been running this activity for at least 2 years, all of that documentation has to be in place. But remember something else, that this CDBG program is been in place since 1974 for the last 47 years, number one. Number two, that this is an annual allocation. So every year we do this application process. Now we are running a little short on time this time because of COVID and everything else that happened with COVID. That's why we are a little short on time. But usually the way it works is that this application process opens in March, April, and the applications are actually not due until July. And then the action plan goes to the commission, and I submit it to the feds in August. So we have a little more time under normal circumstances. But unfortunately, because of COVID, we are, you know, a little bit running short on time. It's, exactly. Yes, sir. Oh, so sorry. So yes, Ketora was the lady asked a question here. I'm sorry, what's your name? Okay. Ms. Watson had a question in regards to if you are a brand new nonprofit organization, therefore you don't qualify for the program. And unfortunately, that is the case because once again, you know, you have to be in place as a nonprofit for at least 3 years. You have to be running that activity that you are seeking funding for at least 2 years. So therefore, there's a little requirement there because once again, we want to make sure that the nonprofit organization will actually carry out the activity successfully. I mean, we are there to be able to provide you technical support, to do the monitoring and kind of guide you by the hand of what you're doing and everything else. But nonetheless, we want you to have at least some experience, and the staff has some experience for you to be able to run the activity and sell successfully. That's what it boils down to. Any other questions? Yes, ma'am. Good, thank you, appreciate that. Any questions online, John? All right.
So it's Emily Ash from First Presbyterian Church. And we are looking at developing a new program.
Okay.
So it's not something that we have history with programs,
Okay.
but not in this particular area. So is that something that would be considered? Because for us to write this up in the next 48 hours, I'd want to know it would be something that would be viable to be considered.
Exactly. So yes, and
Thank you.
and yes, and the question is no, because you have to have at least 2 years running that activity. I mean, it's a brand new activity that you haven't done it before. You don't know how it's going to turn out. Therefore, we really don't want to risk it with that because we want you to at least have some experience on that. If you come and tell me, you know, I've been doing this for the last 2 years and we've been doing okay, but we want some additional funding to do it this year and continue on with it, then that's something that we definitely will consider. 2 years, yes. 2 years minimum, yes. Any other questions? No questions? All right. Nothing. Okay, awesome. Well, once again, thank you. Yes. Well, I'm gonna start that plan as soon as possible because it will take me a year for me to put it together. So I need to start collecting data, surveys, and everything else. It's a whole process that takes at least a year for that consolidated plan to be put in place. So that one is gonna take some time and it's gonna take definitely public participation. I'm gonna be reaching out to not just nonprofit, but the community at large to be able to collect all the data that I need to be able to put in place that consolidated plan. Thank you for the question.
All right, RJ, I got two online here. The first one is from Golene Gordon, and she asked, since the time is very short, if someone sent an application but it's incomplete, will that application still process after the deadline once all documents received to complete the application? Once all the documents received to complete the application.
Unfortunately, the answer to that question is no. Unfortunately, the answer to that question is no, because once again, we have to submit all documentation. It had to go to the board by August 3rd and it to be in HUD by August 16th. So just because of time. However, there is always next year. There's always next year. And if there is any question you have with this year application and anything that I can help you to prepare for next year, please just give me a call and I will definitely help you to get ready for next year.
Perfect. And there's one more. Can an agency receive funding for more than one program?
For more than one program, meaning that perhaps the organization itself has two activities that they propose to seek funding for?
Yeah, it seems like that's how I'm reading it, but yes, she said yes.
Okay. Once again, if it meets the requirements that we're seeking and the criteria that we are seeking, I mean, I don't see why not. If it's something that the committee will recommend for funding. Absolutely, that's an excellent clarification, okay, Keturah. And Keturah, just say that if you are submitting, you're seeking funding for two different activities, definitely they have to be two different applications. That's definitely good to clarify, because two activities cannot be in the same application. There have to be absolutely two separate budgets in two separate programs altogether. It had to be absolutely two separate applications, absolutely. Thank you, Ketura. So the application, where are the applications is the question. The applications are online. In the announcement, there is a link for the application themselves. And the application itself is not really that hard. The application is about 12 pages. The questions are super easy. If somebody has experience writing grants, it's something that you can do, I don't know, maybe 4 hours. Actually, it's not really that hard. There is no any scientific question of trying to calculate mathematical symbols or anything like that. So it's very, very, very simple. And again, the documentation themselves is something that any nonprofit organization should have handy for any other program, any other grant that they might be applying for. And then we have the supplemental application supplement that one can explain in detail what is it that you are supposed to do. It's very, very, very well detailed. And then again, also, I'm here myself. If you have any questions, just pick up the phone, give me a call, and I will, guide you through and make sure that the application gets put together in time. I mean, there is still time. Once again, something to keep in mind, though, something to keep in mind for those that are considering applying for this grant is, can you meet the regulations? Can you meet all the different criteria that goes along with this grant? That is the question. Because even though you might have a good idea and the project will be wonderful and everything else, but at the end of it all, if you think that, I don't think that I can do it along the way, that's something just better don't get involved in it. Because once again, the city is responsible for these funds and I'm responsible for the city. If something goes wrong, then, I'm the one that is going to get in trouble. So, and absolutely, the committee is going to review this application in detail and make sure that it meets all the criteria before we consider any funding. So, yeah. Absolutely. Any other questions? Any other questions? Okay. I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to come here. I hope that this helped. This information has been helpful. And once again, if you are not ready to submit an application this year, you can always submit it next year. Absolutely. And if throughout the year you have some question on the activities that you like to take, just give me a call throughout the year. Doesn't matter even if it's no application period or anything, like just pick up the phone and say, hey, RJ, can you help me out with this question? I want to do this activity. What do you say? Let's become friends, because that's the way it works. I'm here to answer any question throughout the year, anytime. I'm a public servant. I work for you. So therefore, we work for the public. And anytime you can pick up the phone, give me a call, and I will definitely help you to prepare for next year in case you are not able to submit an application for this year. All right. Well, thank you so much once again. I appreciate your time and coming in, and I will see you hopefully at some point. All right. Awesome.